And welcome back to Washington Commanders Insider. Today, we're talking about how Luke McCaffrey can carve out a major role for himself this upcoming season. And so before we go ahead and we jump into it, I first want to remind you to hit that subscribe button, just like Jaden Daniels is going to be hitting Terry McLaurin, Deebo Samuel, Zach Ertz, Luke McCaffrey, and many others for multiple touchdowns this upcoming season. And so in exchange for hitting that subscribe button, I'm going to give you nothing but daily content around the Washington Commanders. And so make sure that you hit that like, you hit that subscribe, and you join the Washington Commanders Insider family as we talk nothing but Washington Commanders football. And so with that being said, let's go ahead and let's jump into it. We're talking about Luke McCaffrey's big opportunity this season. And so, look, I think that Luke McCaffrey has a very good opportunity in front of him coming up this season, because I think first you have to start with what is currently going on in a very crowded wide receiver room. And so starting with point number one, and why I think that Luke McCaffrey is in line for a very big season, is you have to start with the fact that Terry McLaurin is still not got his contract taken care of. Now, I think that this is something that we clearly expect to get done, but as of right now, he does not have the new extension that he's looking for. He was holding out, during the mandatory mini camps and things like that. And so there's the possibility that that could run into training camp. Again, there's no indication that that does happen. But if it does, then I think that one of the biggest beneficiaries here is going to be Luke McCaffrey. Next, I think the next thing here as to why Luke McCaffrey could be stepping into a big role is you have to look at the injuries currently with the Washington Commanders. And so last time we left off, Noah Brown was carted off there during the mandatory mini camps. And so we still don't have an injury update. In fact, I think the last thing was he was getting an MRI. And so we don't know anything just yet. Hopefully it's not anything too serious. And even if it is something minor, you have to wonder, are the Washington Commanders going to maybe pace Noah Brown along? Because remember, he did not finish last season due to being injured. And so this is a situation where maybe they might elect to just take it slow with him, bring him along just slowly so they can make sure that he gets to the season. And I still think that Luke McCaffrey could slide into those reps during the training camp and then the preseason and really get into just a good rhythm with Jaden Daniels, with this offensive scheme, and just really find his niche that way. And so he might play his way past players that are ahead of him. Next, a player that we just brought in too, Michael Gallup. And so we have not talked about him as much, but from what I see here, he's been dealing with a hamstring strain. And so he has had to miss some time as well. And so you have two receivers that, were penciled in as players that certainly were going to be impactful this season. They're already dealing with some injuries. And so that means that, look, you do not have wide receiver number one that has been available due to the contract extension. You have, another wide receiver that made a ton of plays for you last season and definitely was one of Jaden Daniels' favorite targets down the field. He's injured. Then you have a player that was brought in to stretch the field and perhaps has some potential coming back into the NFL this season. He's been injured. And so that just makes you now look at Luke McCaffrey, and you have to say to yourself here in year number two, this is a big opportunity for him, and he certainly can step up, because one of the things that Dan Quinn was talking about is that now you're just seeing that the competitor and the skill is really matching up. And so he has been turning some heads in the mandatory mini camps and in the OTAs and things like that. And so he's looking very good. And with Luke McCaffrey, what I like most about him is the fact that he actually played quarterback. And I think that that is definitely an advantage for a wide receiver, because I think that you're understanding the game, not only just from a wide receiver standpoint, but also too from the quarterback standpoint. And I think that that's something that he was talking about coming into this season. It's one thing to go out there, run the routes, know the plays and things like that, but it's another thing to actually know exactly what your quarterback needs from you and where you need to be at. And so I think that that is going to be the advantage for Luke McCaffrey, is he's going to be able to really take the knowledge that he's had as a quarterback. He's obviously in the building with Jaden Daniels working and knowing where he needs to be there. And so I think that that indicates really a possible year two step up for him. And next, I think much like Jaden Daniels, you have to look at the fact that because it's year two, you have the same offensive coordinator. I think that things are probably going to slow down for him as well. And so, just like Jaden Daniels, I think that these guys are going faster as far as their processing speed, but the game is slowing down for them in year two. And so, I think that this is another real advantage for Luke McCaffrey this season and just getting on the field and being a huge playmaker for this team. And so, next, I think that you love the fact, man, that he has put in the offseason, because I know he was talking about how he had been working hard there with his brother and everything else, who we know, has been established in this league as well. And so, look, I love the fact that he's come in, he's put in the work ethic, and I just think that everything really points for Luke McCaffrey to have a successful season. The fact that he's coming back, he's comfortable with the system, he's processing things faster, and it looks like that things are really just setting up for him to take a step forward on the depth chart here, because you have two players that are injured. And then I just think after that, it's open, because I think that Jalen Lane certainly is going to have a role, but I do think that Luke McCaffrey naturally slides in there because he's got the year two experience. And so we'll see what happens. I know that we have KJ Osborne on the roster, and so I don't think that we saw too much of him last season. Chris Moore, a player that has come in and actually looked pretty good thus far. We'll see what happens as preseason goes along. And then, you got Jacoby Jones. He's out there. And then Ja'Cory Brooks, a player that I like a lot. And so we'll see what happens as far as when they have to cut the roster down and everything else. But I think that Luke McCaffrey is off to a great start. I think that he's in a great position. And I certainly think that, man, he could be an impact player here for the Commanders this season. And so anyway, you guys let me know in the comments here what you guys are thinking. Do you feel like that Luke McCaffrey can absolutely have a breakout season this upcoming year? Do you feel like that, yes, with the fact that we do have some injuries right now, this is maybe the opportunity here for Luke McCaffrey to kind of step up in those roles, right? Because I think that everybody kind of pushes forward if players have to sit out, right? And so I think from there, he's going to get some more reps, obviously, with the first team and everything else. And then also, too, with the fact that we do expect Terry McLaurin to come back. Hopefully we get that deal taken care of. I mean, again, there's no indication that it's not going to happen, but I just think that as you miss time there, I think that you're going to have to slide up in the depth chart here, and the team has to prepare for a situation as if, maybe these players aren't available. And I just think that Luke McCaffrey would certainly be one of those players that takes advantage of that. And so you guys let me know in the comments here what you guys are thinking. And as we always say, look, go Commanders, and I will see you guys on the next one. All right, peace.